Go ahead. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights and privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay. Any recognition of individuals, delegations, or correspondence? Okay. We will move into public hearing for the final budget. Approval of the trustee financial summary.
Yes, so in your, you'll see the trustee's financial summary. And Christy did a fabulous job of pulling this together. And it pretty much explains itself. If you have any questions, let me know. Or Christy might be able to help you answer them.
Hey Susie, when we were looking at this earlier, Christine must have Pam's name.
Yes, that was fixed today.
Okay, I'm just making sure you guys caught that.
Yep.
Okay, good.
She's been trying to get it fixed in the system for a while, but it takes a while with OPI to get those things done. Some emails from certain systems that Christy sends still say they're coming from Pam too, just so you know. If you see that.
We're working
That's,
on it.
yeah.
I got one the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay. I guess they emailed this out earlier. I don't know if anybody had any questions, comments.
I reviewed it earlier and I don't have any comments. Well, most of it, and there was a lot. I reviewed most of it.
A lot of numbers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, with that, I guess if there are no questions, I move we approve the trustee financial statement for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the trustee financial summary for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Adopted the final budget for 2021, 2022.
All right, so there's a PowerPoint in your packet, but I'll also have it up here so you can look over this way or look in your packet, whatever is easiest. And it's still up on my screen, but not over there. So I got to learn how to use the Promethean board during tech days. So that was
I'm sorry we stole it away from you.
yeah, I thought I'd be here today. I was going to show off. But it timed me out a few times just like this. Had it there. All right, thank you. All right. So first of all, just some notes that this budget is based off what we advertised in March, which is part of the required process. So a lot of the budgets were set at that point. So we'll be doing that again and hope to have that ready. We'll start working on it as early as November this year. So we post those in March, those estimates, and then we made additional changes based on what we discovered regarding the budget in the past few weeks. However, there are no significant changes to the projected revenues needing to be addressed. So no big changes occurred this year. As we move forward, the board, and the strategic planning is going to be a great process for that, but the board needs to decide where our priorities lie. Some areas that we need to think about is making sure that we have coverage for extended medical leave and maternity leave. Substitute wages. I've been doing some comparisons. I really think that's an area we need to focus on, and our classified wages. Also employee housing, since we saw that be a big impact this year. And then also professional development and curriculum, so we can get on a regular cycle and schedule, especially once ESSER runs out. We want to be able to maintain and sustain the ability to continually renew our professional development and curriculum. So with our lease fund, we were over, you're allowed to carry $20,000 in there, and we were at 32, so 12,000 had to be transferred to the general fund and reappropriated. So in the future, we want to spend that money on upgrades to those properties. And then you'll see as we get into the budget slideshow that we are recommending increasing the tuition levy from $43,183 to $55,000 because we do have some very high needs students coming in, and that is still less than half of what we have the authority to adopt, but that will budget our mills out. That'll keep them level right at where we were at last year. So we've already approved this CFS, so I can skip that one. So here's our OPI title allocations for our upcoming year. So Title 1A is our support funding to support our students for Title I school-wide, so we can use those funds to support all of our students that are in need of extra support in learning. And our Title II is meant to be for professional development. And Title 4A in the 90s was known as Safe and Drug-Free School Monies, and then that went away, and we just got that back. We just got that reinstated about 2 years ago. Congress just passed that, so we have Title 4A monies again. Because we're Title I school-wide, we're allowed to combine all of these funds into one and put them into the general fund. And most of this funding is currently going to salaries. In the future, I'd like to see us keep that Title IIA money for its intended purpose of professional development. The Title 4B is the after-school programming, which we didn't apply for, but that's something that I'd like to write a grant for in the future as well. So obviously you guys know we have budgeted funds and non-budgeted funds, and the board must approve the budgeted funds. So those are what we will focus on tonight. So here's our budget overview. Here's the dollar amounts. So it's pretty straightforward. The state sets our general fund. We have our standard numbers, and we used the OPI calculation charts to come up with these numbers. So we have to plug in all the information about our buses and so on to get the number that comes out to where we are allowed to put that money forward for our bus depreciation, for example. We put in everybody's information for retirement and get that number. The tuition is the one where, like I said, we put all of our high needs students into a spreadsheet, and those are only the ones we know about so far and what they need so far, right? And then the staff that it takes to support those students and the equipment, and then we get that cost. So we're over 123,000 this year, and we would like to levy 55,000. So you have the authority to levy up to 123,000 to support the district with those special ed costs that we're incurring. However, that would impact our taxpayers. So in adult ed, we had money, so you'll see when we move to the mills, we're not increasing that. So I'll go ahead and move over so you can see how this impacts the taxpayers and the number of mills we need. So here's our mills. So in retirement, we have 0. Adult ed, like I said, we have funding in there. We weren't able to use any last year because of COVID. We couldn't do our adult ed program, so we're not going to levy any funds for that. Flex and building reserve, we don't need any funding. So like I said, in the tuition, that's where you can see the big difference, where we could ask for 7.22 mils, but we're asking for 3.05. And that keeps us just about exactly where we were last year. And then, of course, the debt services is our bond, and the mills will collect on our bond for the building, for the new school building. Does anybody have any questions about the budgeted amounts or the mills, or any thoughts?
So you're just bumping up the mills on the tuition just a little bit, about from 41 or 2 last year?
43,055.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
But but you can see we lowered the bus depreciation amount that we're collecting, and the transportation and the general fund, so it balances out. So our taxpayers and our mills stay level. I should be using those words together in this presentation. So I think that it's important to try to keep the mills at an even keel and not have large increases and decreases. So I'd like to keep them there, especially when we, lose our ESSER funding. We're going to have to figure out how to sustain some things in the budget and work on some of those pay increases that we need so that we can be competitive in the marketplace. So.
That 227 on the bus depreciation, that's what it will bring our total up to? That's what it will be for this year, correct?
Correct. Yeah, just like we're just keeping flat on the adult education, that's how much we currently have, and we're not asking for any more. Any further questions or thoughts? So I would recommend that we adopt the 21-22 budget as I presented. If you don't have any questions or concerns.
I'm just going to ask, just for clarification around the bus depreciation, because Jason asked the question initially, and no issue, it looks great. That bus depreciation, though, that's an increase, but it's an increase. How does that work? And maybe that'll be helpful for some of the folks that might be out, listening or watching, as to how that bus depreciation fund actually works and is funded.
That's a good question. So the one thing I did talk to Jason about when I was looking through and doing my analysis of the budget over the last month was you could definitely see that there was a big dip and so that I found out you guys purchased a bus. So we're trying to build that back up, right? But as to the way that it's calculated, Christy filled out the bus depreciation sheet, so she could probably answer that in more detail. It gets pretty into the weeds with the calculations on how you get to those numbers.
Okay, so on Mayfair's, where we put the budget information into on the OPI site, they already have the maximum allowable depreciation that you can put in for the bus depreciation. And so you can take anything from that high number to anything lower to make the mills move around to where you need it to be.
And it's based on the value of, you know.
It's a
the
5-year
process.
cycle.
Right. So once we bought that new bus, that allowed us to basically depreciate that same dollar figure back out over time, which is how we build that fund back up.
And then so it's just depreciating out assets.
Correct.
Right.
So is that 20% per year then, over 5 years? Is that
Yes.
how it works?
Just like you could do with a vehicle when you own your own business. Yep.
And that's my only somewhat concern, is just looking at our bus fleet and some of the issues. You know, we've got the one new bus, but we also have 4 buses that are far from new that do continue to cause us some problems. So that's my only concern, is not taking enough in the long run to make sure that we don't get caught.
We did take
Down
the
the road.
max for the bus depreciation because we need it.
That is still the max.
Yes.
Okay. Then there's not much we can do about that.
So that's where we took less. I mean, that's why in order to balance it, we took less in the tuition levy, right? So that we can keep the mills steady.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your help, Kristen. Okay.
Well, I guess at this point, I would move that we adopt the 2021-2022 budget as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the 2021-2022 budget as presented. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Acknowledge student attendance agreement.
So sorry, this is a bit out of order, but we had 2 more students that requested attendance agreements, and they are going to be in a program, in a school that has a program that fits their needs. So I recommend that we allow for that attendance, those 2 students to have those attendance agreements.
Correct.
Okay.
They have
It
confidential
looked
information.
like they were looking for.
Yeah, sorry, they have
I
confidential
kinda did for a
information
second.
on them, so.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve student attendance agreement with students being placed in the program that meets their needs.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the student attendance agreements with those students being placed in a program that meets their needs. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, back to approve the ESSER application.
Okay, so you have the ESSER application in front of you, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab mine. As you remember, this is due on August 24th. I just got access to it, because it's a process. You have to actually fill out paperwork and then file it to get access to this program. So I haven't had access long. So I was able to complete this, but I do have a couple things that I already noticed I want to change. So the main priorities are instructional uses. So our main priorities in our ESSER application are instructional uses, including supplies and curriculum. And in order to help with that learning loss that students may have had as a factor of COVID, and then facility upgrades and cleaning and technology and software. So those are our 3 main buckets that we are utilizing our ESSER funds for. So I just want to make sure, I've typed it a little bit different in the application, so I'm going to change that. We had meaningful consultation, so I talked to staff about, teachers and principals about our ESSER application. I welcomed parents and community members into that conversation, and they were invited to the last board meeting to provide public input. I had a meeting at noon with some folks that were interested in providing some input and collaborating on ESSER to serve students with tutoring and STEM activities outside of school. So I met with them today even. We advertise this with public meetings, on website, social media, and through emails. So when it gets into the action plans, it gets pretty well into the weeds. I am still doing a data dive and getting into our data a bit deeper. So I might set some more goals and change up a little bit of the percentages in there. The more I learn and have time to go through our data before the 24th. So, but this gives you the gist of it, that we are setting goals in math and reading, and we have our curriculum plan laid out there, with year 1, our priority being K-5 ELA, English language arts, and year 2, our priority will be 6th through 12th grade English language arts, and year 3 will be K-12 math. So we are already starting the process of, you'll see some of our samples are over there. We had a great literacy day. We're already starting the process of adopting those new scientific and research-based curriculum and intervention programs for reading at the K-5 level. That's our first priority, and that matches with our timeline, which is on the next page. And then I also put in our goals for our timeline and for our students meeting benchmarks on our local data. And then you'll see when it breaks down into subgroups, we're going to focus on our free and reduced population and our students with disabilities. Those are our largest minorities in Townsend. And I put goals for them based on SBAC data. So one other area I would like to make a change is to addressing lost instructional time. I got a little click happy, and I didn't realize that they had separated it out, that they wanted you to click which ways you were using the funds for the 20% on one page and which way you were using the funds, all the other funds on the other page. So I have to go in there and remove a couple of clicks on the 20% page because that's the instructional learning loss page. So we are putting ESSER funds into our after-school program, and that fits right into the learning loss. We are doing additional supports and intervention positions to support the students with ESSER funds, and the curriculum and even the technology goes into that 20% for learning loss, providing students with those devices.
So when we use these ESSER funds for after-school programs, do we have to establish like a tutoring program or, like a set aside a specific learning space or something?
Yeah, we have to maintain an academic focus, or, at least for a section or portion of the time of the after-school program. And the folks that run Stoke that came to the board meeting last week, for example, we can contract with them. So I told them you guys would like more information, and they need to, type us up like some form of a contract and how that would work, a proposal. So whether it was one day a week, starting in October, or one or 2 weeks a quarter, they would like to do STEM activities. So science and engineering, they have some really cool ideas with the kids. So that'd be a great partnership and fit right into what the ESSER funds are intended to be used for. They also had some tutoring ideas for providing tutoring to students. And then we'll also do that with our own staff and our current after-school program. So Christina and I will meet with the after-school coordinator and after-school program coordinator and work on those. But since we don't have the after-school funding right now, that's a great resource for that. And obviously we're continuing to do the deep cleaning and the additional cleaning. We have an additional custodian currently doing the evenings in the high school to make sure we're able to keep the gymnasium and the locker room, those public areas cleaner this year. So those are the highlights of the ESSER application. And I would recommend that you approve it with and give me the authority to make those changes that I request.
Just a quick question around, just simply a question. On the second page, second page, prior to beginning your school district ESSER plan, consider the following, and it talks about a gap analysis. And my question was, have you been able to do a gap analysis, or if there was even enough data to really know what that gap is?
I started.
With detail.
Yeah. So I started the gap analysis. I don't have access to all of the data points, so we're going to work together as an administrative team. I talked to them today about it to get all of those data points in there. So that's why I said I wanted to add some data points in those sections on our goals. However, I was able to determine that our minority groups, our underperforming groups, are our special needs students and our students with disabilities and our free and reduced lunch students. So that was my big finding from that. Also, I thought was very interesting, because I've usually seen it the other way. Our reading scores are actually lower than our math scores, and statewide that's usually the opposite. So.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Which I think goes to show the importance, and I think we're right on target with our priority of starting with the K-5 literacy.
Well, thank you for that response.
Yeah, I found that data really interesting, because it's usually the opposite.
Yeah, significantly opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, I approve, let's see, I move to, what is it?
Approve the application.
Approve the ESSER 3 application.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ESSER application as outlined for submission to OPI. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, maybe we should move to amend the motion to include authorization for Ms. Hedlund to change the application as we're seeing it to the correct distribution she needs to for the 20% learning loss group.
And I second that amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to
We'd actually vote on the amendment and then vote on.
Right. To amend the motion to authorize Mrs. Hedlund to change this application as outlined to adjust to meet the necessary percentage changes. Okay, any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Amendment passes. So now the motion would now read, move to approve the ESSER application as outlined for submission to OPI with authorization given to Mrs. Hedlund to change and adjust the necessary numbers to meet the required percentages. Any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Once you click submit, there's no back button, and once you click submit, you have to request access to get back in. So I couldn't just change it this afternoon, but I'm going to do that. So, all right, now we will move on. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
You're good.
All right.
Move to approve the ESSER budget.
Okay, so in your packet you have the details, but this is the breakdown of our ESSER dollars, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and the ESSER 3 with the 20% for learning loss. So we made sure that we followed those guidelines. ESSER 1 has to be spent before we start spending the other ESSER funds. And this is my recommendation for our school year this year. However, in order to make it calculate right, this is a little bit funky, but this is what we spent last year, the $43,000. So that was spent last year, and then this is what I'm recommending we spend this year. So we'll spend this to complete the Title I, or the ESSER 1 budget. That will wrap up the ESSER 1 budget, and then we'll start into the ESSER 2 budget and the ESSER 3 budget. The facility maintenance you'll see here is about $200,000. That is changed since you guys moved, the board approved to use the interest on the project. So we had some funds
From the middle school
from the middle
to
school.
the high school.
And so 200,000 of that will continue to go into the facilities. The other portion I readjusted to put into more instructional purposes. It was over 300,000 before. So that would be this year. Then the following year, we don't have ESSER 1 any longer because we've spent that. And then we go into ESSER 2. We have those important components that we talked about with the curriculum and the professional development that the board felt was important. We are still, maintaining that cushion for additional supplies and cleaning, and that custodian we're able to pay for with this. And we have some more funding in food services. We have the Chromebooks as we scheduled. And then this is the high school COVID renovation amount that was originally
That was the
set.
original amount, right?
And I did lower the after-school programming, hoping we'll have additional funding sources by this time. We figured out that it costed $20,000 last year to run the after-school program out of the general fund budget.
But the cost versus the number of kids that were in the program 2 years ago, last year was probably about half of what it was 2 years ago.
No, we were up there. In the beginning, it was half.
Okay.
Yeah, and then our numbers jumped up there again. It wasn't quite 2/3 of it. By the time we got halfway through.
Appreciate it. That's a perspective we look for. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so I do have an error on this page. It says 2022, 2023 again, that should be 23, 24. And so this will be our final year with ESSER. And we will complete our ESSER 2 funds for this amount. And then we will finish off our ESSER 3 funds, which have to be obligated by September of 24.
Sal, can you refresh my memory? So they don't have to be spent, they can just be budgeted, earmarked, identified?
Obligated, yep. Well, Christy, how would you explain the way that works if they have to be obligated? We have to have the services encumbered,
Under contract or?
under contract.
I would have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Because we would do our budget for that year in August. And so if the budget had contemplated those expenses, I don't know if that was actually enough to have allocated them in the budget, or again, if they, the word obligated is, voted on and approved, identified and, budgeted for, or actually say under
Look
contract.
into that and we'll get to it.
Appreciate that, thanks.
And maybe not a lot, but as I recall, it seems like I recall something from someplace discussing a little bit of flexibility within these numbers as we move forward.
Yeah, we can always make amendments.
Mhm.
Mhm. but they want an outline and it needs to align with the ESSER application. So that's why you'll see the same things I talked about in the application reflected in this budget on what we're going to do to support our students and ensure our school is safe and clean, and our staff have that additional professional development. We have the technology ready to go if we have to do remote learning, any of those kinds of things. And that's it. Any questions on those?
I was just glad, I was just happy to see that there's a good chunk for professional development. And I got lost a little bit because you're pulling it at ESSER 2 one year and ESSER 3 the next. Makes perfectly good sense. I just lost it from page to page. But thanks for budgeting it that way.
It could maybe be smoother, but it took a lot of work to get those columns to add up so that we had the right total for 1 and then 2 and then 3.
Yeah, and
So
I just lost it.
Moving them
From
from
column to column,
column to column, yep.
With that, I guess I move to approve the ESSER budget for submission to OPI.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ESSER budget for submission to OPI. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Personnel.
You kept wanting to say assessment, and I knew that wasn't right. I'm like, that was my pause there.
Okay, approve the new hires.
All right. We have Lorinda Stokey, who was the interpreter previously with you guys, has reapplied, and we would like to hire her back as our American Sign Language interpreter.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Lorinda Stokey as the interpreter for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Lorinda Stokey as the interpreter for the 2021-2022 school year. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Approve new substitute.
So Gabby Backham would like to substitute this school year, so I recommend we approve her. She's ready to sub, and she's subbed previously, so we have her paperwork ready to go, so that will be helpful in September.
I move to approve Gabby Backham for the 21-22 school year as sub.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Gabby Backham for the 2021-2022 school year as a substitute. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Approve new coaches, junior high cross country and junior high volleyball.
So today, we were able to fill these coaching positions and interviewed. So Daniela Reagan for junior high cross country and Angie Tu for junior high volleyball.
I'll move to approve the new coaches, Daniela Reagan and Angie Chu, for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the new coaches, Daniela Reagan and Angie Tu, for the 2021-2022 school year. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Information items. Any principal reports? Nope, superintendent.
Not the last meeting.
Yeah, We're
It's
all-
on there, I had to ask.
We're all exhausted, that's the report. Yeah, so I just wanted to note that I will have policy updates ready for the next regular board meeting. We didn't want to extend tonight, we wanted to focus on the budget, so we will have some coming next regular board meeting. And then I wanted to give you a heads up that there will also be field trip approval for the 5th grade field trips. However, they'll be pretty quick after that board meeting, but it wasn't on this agenda, so I just wanted to give you a heads up that the 5th graders will be going on a field trip in late September. The PIR days were awesome, and I am just so lucky to have such an awesome administrative team. I had a lot of fun at technology days on Tuesday and learned how to use the Promethean board, and then I got to use it yesterday to do the literacy day training with the staff, so that was a lot of fun. And Joe was excellent help, so thanks so much. And I learned some new things about IC, and all the staff was really engaged, and so Sherry and her team did a nice job at that, and all of us got to participate in that, so that was great. The literacy day went really well. Oh, I was going to show you, but that whole board was covered in writing, and we had sticky notes all over in here, and we had a really good turnout, and we had representation from all grade levels, and even some middle school folks came to see kind of how that would work with the students that would be coming to them, and if they might want to adopt the same program for like K-8 alignment or those kinds of things. Everybody seemed to be in consensus about the same program by the end of the day, so that's exciting because that can be really challenging when people are all over the place. But we're going to do some more research, and we're going to zoom into some classrooms so they can watch it being taught in action. We were able to zoom in with teachers in Roberts, they're in Red Lodge, and talk to them about the programs that they're using so they could hear it from the teachers that are teaching those programs and ask them questions. We had Debbie Hunsaker, who owns Strive and is a literacy expert, has been doing literacy work for over 20 years. And she does a lot with Denver public schools, but also all over the state of Montana. And she came in and spoke, and I got a lot of really nice emails from staff that they appreciated having that opportunity and getting to hear from experts in the field. So that was a really great day. It was challenging. It wasn't easy. Christina did a great job. It's hard to change, and people have been doing things a certain way for a long time. And but there's new research out there, and there's better programs and different ways to do things that we've learned about. So we are excited to move forward on that and really use our data that we're collecting to drive our instruction. So Debbie did a really great presentation. It went really well. And the middle school was busy getting moved. Brad doesn't even want to talk about it, but he's been helping his team and keep the calm over there. So we had a couple roof leaks and different things going on as well, and he was on top of it. So him and Jim were busy, so that was great. So as far as the Seamless Summer Option food program, there's a parent letter in here in the superintendent report where I put a little blurb about it, and I'd like to get that information out to families. It's under superintendent's report, but we were approved for the Seamless Summer food option, so all students will receive free hot lunch at no charge for this school year. We don't know if it'll continue. It sounds like the national movement is for that to continue nationwide. There's been so much research on how well it went last year in the schools that used it. And our reimbursement rate is $4.37 for students eating hot lunch under this program. And under our old program, when we were charging students, we were only getting $2.70, something like that, for each student that ate hot lunch. So we actually get a higher reimbursement rate. We're not sure how it's going to impact our program in that budget, so we're going to keep close eyes on it. But I think it's really a great opportunity and something to offer to the community.
That's breakfast too.
That's a good question.
It says free meals, but I wasn't sure if that was that, because I got hit by parents today.
That's a great question. I'll have to make sure, but I would guess. Yeah, I copied that section.
It just says free
meals,
which I assume means
Yeah.
everything, but.
My
Yeah,
understanding in talking with the other some people that got on the program last year was yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I
because
understood too,
we won't be
but-
taking in any money from what I understand. So yeah, that would make sense. And so another thing, I hope it won't be a big thing, but we're not doing the additional milks either, because if we're not taking in any money, then let's just not be taking in any money. You know, if students are still thirsty, they'll get a cup. They can fill up at the bottle filler. So if everyone's okay with that, then it will really help with some of the craziness of the lunchroom. It'll take out one more thing, so smooth things out in the lunchroom.
So they just gonna see what the, kind of the lunch load or the meal load, I guess, even if it's for breakfast, and then adjust how many lunches they're making and that kind of as they go. And if interest is really strong at the beginning and it wanes a little bit, then they'll pull that back. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and students will still say hot or cold, in the morning and that kind of thing. So Vicky's really good at ordering and figuring out all of that. She does a fabulous job. So
And she said that they'll have options back this year. So we'll have the 2 plus the PB&J, so for the little kids, they have options again. We didn't have that much.
Will that impact staff lunches at all?
not that I am aware of. Just for the kids, it has to be students that are enrolled.
So
So-
the pricing will remain the same, I'm assuming?
Yes. Unless you help work the lunchroom, learn a lunch. Come on down.
Join us, we need that.
So the salad bars will be back. Well, while we're on it, I might as well share that also has to do with the COVID updates, but the salad bars and everything will be back. The sanitarian said that there's no restrictions in Broadwater County on food service. The only thing he said was he doesn't think we should ever reopen the drinking fountains. So, but it's not a requirement. It's just highly recommended. So I told Jim we'll keep
It's kind of like the gingerbread
the
house
drinking
thing.
fountain.
Yeah, right there with you.
But we'll still have the bottle
Filler.
fillers available, but we're not gonna do the drinking fountain part. Because those little guys like to put the whole thing in their mouth. It's quite alarming.
Not just little guys, I don't know.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about that program and Vicki is too. So we have just a little bit of paperwork to fill out for it, but they told us that we go ahead and start school like that right off the bat. So that'll be great. I'll clarify breakfast and lunch things for that, Christina. So then into the COVID updates. We went to the COVID county health meeting that was held this week. And it was mainly to reflect on what occurred last year and how it went and what could have been done differently. So there was a good group of people from the community, important people from the county, county and the sanitarian. So we got him cornered and others that we were needing information from were there. However, we were hoping for more information on what's going on now and what's coming up. And they just said there's no regulations, no requirements in the county right now. And that there was 13 cases on Tuesday. And they said that people have been asking them about what was gonna occur when school opened, and they've been telling them to call the school. But in the letter received from the governor and OPI, it said to get the information from our county. So I typed up that paragraph in that letter about COVID, just kind of off of what I feel like aligns with where we're at with COVID. So please let me know your thoughts on that. That has not gone out yet. So I wanted your input and feedback on that. So just stating that masks are optional. We're still, I got a question after the last meeting, like, so are you not doing anything? Oh no, of course we're still doing the additional cleaning, the fogging, sending anyone home with a fever immediately, asking people not to come to school if they have any symptoms, students and staff, those kinds of things. So just wanted to reiterate that in this letter. And then the other thing is making sure that, we need to get the word out about the masks. And so I included a letter in here from our attorney, Elizabeth Kalava, that outlines the mask requirement on school buses. If we do not abide by that, and it doesn't matter if we contract our buses or not. If we don't abide by that, the buses lose insurance and we get fined $25,000 a day. So currently, masks will have to be worn on buses. So that's what's going on with COVID right now. Last year, staff were allowed to they didn't have to use their sick leave if they were absent for COVID for taking their test. And I didn't know if you wanted to continue that. We have had maybe two staff that have had to be tested in the last couple of weeks. So I didn't know if we were still doing that or if they need to use their leave as normal this year.
What are other schools
How much leave do they take? How long does it take to get a test?
20 minutes,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah.
No, we're talking about you're supposed to quarantine if you have symptoms
Until you get the result.
And right now, they're running, so we went from a day to 10 days. I mean, you were, either over it or severely sick, but, you do the answer.
And that,
But we had it set up where they were teaching still. They were teaching remotely. We still had to pay for a sub in the classroom.
Okay, that's good to know that.
well, it seems like too, it does depend on what kind of test they're getting. The second COVID test I had took 15 minutes. It said, just wait in the parking lot. And
Right.
the test came back. So, yeah, I mean, I personally, I would like to see that extended and give people the opportunity if they're put in that position and that they're not having to use PTO, first time off sick leave, however, nomenclature, until they get a determination, and then we can tackle it at that point.
Is
But-
there a limit on days at a time, or would it be until they say they get their result? I mean, would you be approving like a day or two, or would it be?
I think that's something that's got to be somewhat malleable depending on what testing facilities are up against.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to just,
We could do like 3 days grace though or something. I mean, you guys, so that we have some kind of, I don't know.
But they were
I mean, it is a difficult spot, I think, because if we don't, I think you discourage people from getting tested. And if we, last time we wanted people coming to schools, I'd rather not take the days. I'm pretty sure I don't have it. It does put people in a tough spot. On the other hand, obviously, some people will get tested, just get a few days off. And it's hard. There's, it's like any sick day, it's hard proof. We don't acknowledge it with the test.
Now, some of the last year, some of the teachers were still teaching remotely. Is that right? Several of them.
Just because they couldn't be in the school.
But that was that after a COVID test? Does that relate directly to this, or was that the full year?
That's the whole year.
That was the full year. Okay, so that doesn't directly relate. So if they were out for a couple of days waiting for a test, then we're bringing this up in.
But you are correct, Sean. If they were either on quarantine
Mhm.
due to a contact or sickness or whatever, they would go remote unless they were too sick, unless they felt they were too sick. Yeah.
Okay, so it really is a case-by-case basis.
Yes. For the vast majority did teach remotely from home.
When they were waiting for,
Yes.
okay.
And it could be up to that 10 to 14 days if somebody doesn't, or if somebody chooses not to get tested, they know they have symptoms, they're gonna stay away, they're out, they're quarantining until,
Well, but-
time period. Does that apply to this too? Kind of segue off of your question.
But if they don't get tested,
You can't.
then it's a person, yeah, right, well, right, but then I'm just trying to understand kind of how this sort of
No,
works out.
that's what I'm saying, does this,
Personal choice,
I was gonna say, does
Yeah.
this apply to that?
I don't know if there's
So
anything.
last year,
Yeah.
Pam required proof of a COVID test or proof of a doctor visit in order to get,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
so-
that was my question,
Yeah.
how do we know?
And it's kept confidential. I mean, that would just be between,
Mhm.
Susie, the staff member, and I,
Yeah.
just. Together.
So if they were to,
That was my question.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that
Otherwise,
was that not part of the COVID, of the requirements to use the relief funds for
and
that?
and that's where the money came from last year, were the COVID relief funds. So we would have to find where that money would come from this year.
okay,
So I was just looking,
Okay.
this is the packet that just got released today from NTPEC that has a Q&A on a lot of these questions, but I don't know that this one's in there. I didn't get a chance to read through the whole thing today. I read through the
Yeah.
section that you asked me about today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Today, Sean, but, is a district required to accommodate an employer student who is requesting an accommodation? It's a little different.
Let's talk about that though in a minute after
Yeah.
the leave time. 'cause
I just
think-
was curious
think
if the
that's
answer would be in
important.
here.
I saw that and, anyway.
Yeah. So I guess that's the thing is, it's not part of that act now, right? I mean, that was under the governor's
It's expired.
really, yeah. So do we want to do 3 days, 14 days? I mean, or just case by case and hope that people, are professional about it?
I would almost think it would need to be at the superintendent's discretion.
Oh, boy.
Because you're the one you're going to see it,
Yeah.
on the day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And then if we need to make a change, like if it doesn't seem like it's going well, if we need more structure around it, I can bring it back to the board.
Right.
Does that sound good? Okay. Great, thank you. So
The other
those-
thing was that we were talking about reasonable accommodations, or you started talking about that in there. We have teachers who are, have immunity issues or maybe considered vulnerable. What is a reasonable accommodation for that individual? Like, they might say, well, I can't teach, or I can't be in here if there's no masking.
I think that's the same thing I haven't read that section in here yet, but we go case by case and see what guidance is out there and kind of work with the educator depending on their situation.
And you've got bargaining unit issues and needing to communicate those kinds of things with them too.
Yeah.
So that might be something that we need to,
Outline.
outline, refer up and get some confirmation from our legal counsel. And
That might be addressed on page 20 and 21, maybe.
And it may not even come up, but I was,
Yeah, we haven't had any.
Do we
currently.
have any teachers that have so far expressed concerns about not coming?
I haven't.
Not this year. Well, it's concerned, yeah, but
No.
none that have requested to teach from home.
okay.
And we know it's a hot topic and goes back and forth. We have the right to know, we don't have the right to know, all those things about vaccines and vaccinations, and that impacts it this year too. Comfort levels, if people have been vaccinated or haven't been vaccinated, and I don't know how that plays into, all of that.
Yeah, we can, I've read, in my MTSBA emails that I've received, say that you just have to treat everyone the same and just assume everyone is not even if they are everyone, you can't ask,
Right.
but just take all the precautions that you would if nobody was.
Yeah, I would say that second to the bottom
Yeah,
addresses it
Yeah.
on page 21.
Page 21, okay.
the school districts may need to remind employees that FMLA does not provide employees with the right to accommodations such as working from home. The FMLA only provides an employee with the right to an unpaid leave of absence if they cannot work due to their health condition.
This is a great Q and A with lots of information.
Yeah.
We would have had it a little sooner, because I didn't even get to
They
look
just
at it.
released it this
I
afternoon.
saw it in my email, but I didn't get a chance to look at it, so, very good.
So, yeah.
I think that's pretty clear.
Mhm. So, yeah, those were my main questions. Does anybody have any other thoughts or questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, insofar as the extended 3-day or lounge superintendent's discretion, do you want to put that on the next agenda, or can we entertain a motion for that this evening?
I was just asking for guidance,
Just-
and it's just
yeah,
in my
that's
report, so
okay.
I don't think
It would be nice to be able to digest what the folks at PEC have come up with and apply that, I guess, a little bit to our situation.
Any other questions, comment?
I think Mr.
A question for clarification. It's a two-part question. The school district, which is separate from the rest of the county, I'm not sure how to ask this, I'll probably do it wrong. Is the school district under an emergency order or declaration at this time because of COVID? Or was that never enacted here in this district? To follow my question, I think a lot of school districts did declare an emergency, and then they are keeping that emergency in place. And so that's my question.
We are,
Was there, and is it still?
yes,
Yes and yes?
yes and yes.
Thank you.
great question. Do you have any further questions?
If not, meeting is adjourned.
Oh, I just wanted to add one more.
Okay.
And going back to the move to the middle school, went really, really well. Jim Riddle and first of all the teachers were here and they really worked. Jim Riddle and his staff did a fantastic job. And the entire football team come and help us.
They were like the cavalry when we
Yeah.
got halfway
Yeah,
done with
we
all the
did.
big stuff. We were so happy to see them.
We were able to make it from all the things that were in storage in that lunchroom, we're actually back in the classrooms, probably within 2 to 3 hours. Teachers will have a mess in their room trying to get straightened out, but it really went much better than I ever anticipated it would. And I think we did it with very little. It was chaotic because the crew was really trying to finish. They were trying to put some finishing touches on some rooms, and they were very, very accommodating to us. Dick Anderson, all their subcontractors, the electrical people, everybody, painters, just really understood what we were trying to do and just, we were trying to get out of our way and let us do our thing. And I know it was a real hardship on them too, but
We had a few
It was a
paintings and
good day.
they
It
went
was-
behind
it
us and
went
just
really
tidied them
well.
up. So, but for the most part, it was good. There was very little issue. They actually were painting some walls where the doorways were before we even started moving stuff. So when they started moving some big stuff, there were a few areas, but they just went right behind and touched those all up. They were great. They were very nice. They were very nice.
And overall, a very favorable response from all the staff that are going into those rooms. They really, some of the decisions that were made at the time, some paint schemes and things they were kind of wondering about, and it's turned out really well. It looks really nice.
And that's the tough part, and the question I've been hesitant to ask was what their response was. Because any remodel,
Very positive.
we had to draw the line somewhere. You couldn't do everything in those rooms,
Right.
Hopefully the things we did were positive and,
Everybody
they're
was very
appreciated.
excited and upbeat and happy and smiling, packing boxes, and so I think it was very well.
If you get a chance to swing by during the day, there's still workers down there. We're being glad, anytime, check it out.
It looks great.
Good.
Anybody, the flooring and, it's,
Even
and-
after this meeting, if you wanted to walk down there, it looks good.
Dick Anderson and the crew, they pushed hard. They were on a tight time frame to get that done, and I know everybody's nerves have been on edge,
Yeah.
wondering if they were gonna get it done.
Few odds and ends to
Yeah.
do, and they've been clear about that, we'll be back to complete a few things, but it's nice, and it's really it's freshening up down there.
Luke and Joe were working hard to
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Supply
get
chain,
straightened out down there.
supply chain issues that have haunted, but they did get the ceiling tiles and all that stuff that we didn't know if they were gonna be in.
And a few of the things that are on our end, just like tech things, they've really been trying to get it back up and running, because those teachers really need it, and they've been scrambling and kind of had to put a lot of other things on hold, so, it's been good, and it was a great move, went really well.
We provided coach. Believe you me, the football team was so happy about that.
Any further questions, comments, discussion?
I'm just glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Very good. Now the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
If anybody's interested